1. Bill Ackman ATP Wildcard Scandal, Billionaire plays pro tennis. 2. Billionaire Bill Ackman's epic tennis fail, legends roast him. 3. Roddick slams Bill Ackman's tennis stunt at Hall of Fame Open. 1. Bill Ackman ATP Wildcard Scandal, Billionaire plays pro tennis. Here's a bold truth that might ruffle feathers. When a billionaire steps onto the ATP tennis court to compete, it turns what should be a merit-based sport into a spectacle that mocks the very essence of professional competition. But here's where it gets controversial. Is it fair for immense wealth to grant access that others fight their entire lives to achieve? And this is the part most people miss: the system is supposed to reward skill, not status. Tennis today is one of the most meritocratic sports you can find, from the highest profile stages like Wimbledon down to the smallest events in the challenger circuit. Every player must earn their spot through hard work, results, and rankings. There's no magic elevator. If you want to advance, you have to win. The phrase, "you are what your ranking says you are," isn't just a saying, it's the foundation of the sport. Then comes Bill Ackman, the billionaire hedge fund titan, breaking this fundamental rule. At 59 years old, Ackman is set to play at the Hall of Fame Open in Newport, Rhode Island, an ATP Challenger event where many players are grinding just to make ends meet. While his passion for tennis is clear and admirable, his participation highlights a troubling gap between privilege and professional achievement, and it reveals a stark contrast in how some people gain entry into pro events. Ackman claims to be playing the best tennis of his life, often sharing updates on his social media. He's well known for his political commentary and willingness to promote controversial ideas, but this time, the controversy is on the tennis court. Despite starting serious play only about 10 years ago, he is leveraging his connections and wealth to compete professionally, stepping into a world that is built on merit and fair competition. Let's unpack how this even happened. Ackman revealed that Nick Kyrgios, a former Wimbledon finalist, initially proposed they play doubles together. However, due to Kyrgios's injuries, that plan never came to fruition. Ackman calls the timing fate, but in reality, it's pure privilege at work. Here's why: ATP and Challenger tournaments have strict entry rules based on rankings or qualifying matches, but they also allocate a small number of wildcards for discretionary picks. These wildcards are typically saved for players making comebacks from injury, young local talents, or late entrants who show promise. At Newport, a tournament recently downgraded from ATP level to Challenger status, one wildcard was handed to Jasika, a former champion and a doubles star. However, Sock, 32, has since moved on from professional tennis to focus on pickleball and podcasting. His last professional tennis match was the 2023 US Open. Interestingly, Ackman admitted he had never met Sock before but planned to start practicing with him just days prior to the tournament. Suddenly, Sock requested a wildcard for doubles, with Ackman named as his partner. Neither player truly fits the mold of a team fighting to climb the ranks, yet the tournament granted this entry, despite the fact that Ackman has no official past results recorded by major tennis organizations. This raises an uncomfortable question: why was this allowed? Is it simply the power of money and influence overriding the sport's meritocratic ideals? To be clear, this incident isn't a career ender for any aspiring doubles team who missed out. The stakes at this tournament aren't life-changing for most players. But this isn't a casual golf pro-am where sponsors' friends can just join in. This is professional tennis, where skill and effort are supposed to determine who gets to compete. And that's where the optics get ugly. It damages the sport's image, which already battles perceptions of being exclusive or country club-like. While tennis does have players from privileged backgrounds, many of today's stars come from humble beginnings. Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz hail from middle-class families. Novak Djokovic grew up poor in a war-afflicted region, and Coco Gauff started playing on public courts inspired by icons Serena and Venus Williams. Even the wealthiest players can't fake their way into the top echelons. Winning matches and earning ranking points is the only path forward. No amount of social media fame, friendships, or financial resources can secure a spot on the Pro Tour. Unless you're Bill Ackman. So, what do you think? Is this just harmless fun from a passionate tennis enthusiast who happens to be rich? Or is it a troubling sign that money can buy its way past the sport's gatekeepers, undermining the merit-based system that defines professional tennis? Share your thoughts and let the debate begin. 2. Billionaire Bill Ackman's epic tennis fail, legends roast him. Imagine a billionaire, with no professional tennis experience, stepping onto the court at the prestigious International Tennis Hall of Fame, and being utterly thrashed by younger, more skilled opponents. This is exactly what happened to Bill Ackman, a 59-year-old hedge fund titan, who was ridiculed by tennis legends Roddick and Martina Navratilova for his ill-fated foray into professional tennis. But here's where it gets interesting. Ackman's participation in the doubles match at the 2025 Hall of Fame Open in Newport, Rhode Island, was made possible by a wildcard system, which allows players who wouldn't otherwise qualify to enter the tournament. Critics argue that Ackman's inclusion, facilitated by his wealth and influence rather than merit, undermines the very purpose of the system. And this is the part most people miss, the fact that Ackman, founder of Pershing Square Capital Management, was able to use his wealth and influence to gain entry into a professional tournament, sparking controversy and debate among tennis enthusiasts. Roddick, a former US Open champion, called the match a disaster and the biggest joke I've ever watched in professional tennis. Navratilova, who won an impressive 59 Grand Slam titles, weighed in on social media, saying, "Apparently you can buy yourself a wild card. Oh, to have the confidence." The pair, consisting of Ackman and recently retired ATP pro Jack Sock, were quickly defeated in straight sets by active pros Tomic and Omar Jasika in just 67 minutes. The score was 6-1, 7-5, a resounding victory for the younger Aussies. But what's even more surprising is that Ackman, a skilled amateur with a fortune valued by Forbes at $9.5 billion, was able to secure a spot in the tournament despite his lack of professional experience. Randy Walker, the tournament director, was scathing in his criticism, calling it the absolute worst tennis match I have ever seen. He argued that Ackman's inclusion had not been earned through skill or contribution to the game, and that it was a mistake to grant him a wild card. Ackman, however, took to social media to defend his performance, attributing his poor showing to a sudden bout of stage fright. He wrote, "It was a very humbling experience that gives one even more respect for the pros who play for a living in front of the cameras and the crowds." But not everyone was buying it. Veteran tennis journalist Jon Wertheim called Ackman's appearance wildly inappropriate and lacking in integrity, especially given the fact that the match took place at a sanctioned event that offers ranking points and prize money. Wertheim noted the irony that Ackman is a major financial supporter of the Professional Tennis Players Association, PTPA, an organization dedicated to expanding professional opportunities for tennis players. Fans and social media users also voiced their disapproval, with many describing Ackman's appearance as a mockery and a publicity stunt. Glenn Greenwald, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and avid tennis fan, slammed Ackman on social media, saying he used his vast wealth to worm his way into a professional, ATP-sanctioned tennis tournament at the Hall of Fame at the age of 59. It's a controversy that raises important questions about the role of wealth and influence in professional sports. Should billionaires be allowed to buy their way into professional tournaments, or does it undermine the integrity of the game? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Ackman's appearance was a joke, or was it a legitimate attempt to compete at the highest level? Let us know what you think. 3. Roddick slams Bill Ackman's tennis stunt at Hall of Fame Open. This story is igniting a firestorm among sports fans, and for good reason. A billionaire walked onto the hallowed courts of professional tennis, not as a guest, but as a competitor. And the reaction? Outrage, disbelief, and maybe even a touch of scandal. Curious? Read on, because what happened at the Hall of Fame Open is sparking debate far beyond just the tennis community. Bill Ackman, best known for his savvy investments and politics as a prominent Donald Trump ally, has long worn his passion for tennis proudly. But recently, Ackman took that fandom to a whole new level by actually playing in a professional tennis tournament, a move that, to many, crossed the line from harmless enthusiasm to spectacle. Partnered with retired pro Jack Sock, Ackman made his pro debut in the doubles draw at the Hall of Fame Open. But instead of a feel-good story, the match quickly became infamous, mainly for how lopsided and, some say, embarrassing it was for the sport. Perhaps no one voiced their disgust more strongly than American tennis icon Roddick. On his Quick Serve podcast, Roddick didn't hold back, blasting what he saw as a gimmick that undermined the very essence of tennis excellence. This was beneath the Hall of Fame, Roddick declared with open frustration. He went even further, boldly calling for the Association of Tennis Professionals, ATP, to conduct an official review of what he labeled a farce. This was a total miss, Roddick said, emphasizing the Hall of Fame's sacred duty to honor and protect the game's standards. It was the biggest joke I've ever watched in professional tennis. That's a stinging indictment coming from someone who's deeply involved with the International Tennis Hall of Fame itself as both a partner and a content creator. But here comes the part that really stirs controversy. Roddick bluntly suggested that Ackman only got a spot in the draw thanks to his wealth and influence. Bill Ackman's a massive supporter, funds the PTPA, does all the right things off the court, and somehow, he gets to play a pro event when there are plenty of club players far more qualified. Roddick questioned, hinting at possible backroom deals or at least favoritism in granting a wild card. Is this fair to up-and-coming athletes who train their whole lives for such opportunities? Or is it a harmless publicity stunt? Adding more fuel to the fire, Roddick cited a 2016 incident involving Nick Kyrgios, who was fined by the ATP for lack of effort. In his view, the Hall of Fame Open match shared the same problem, except this time, it looked as if Ackman's opponents may have held back to let the 59-year-old enjoy his shot at the pros. There was exactly one person on the court giving full effort, Roddick insisted. If you disagree, just watch the footage, I challenge anyone to say otherwise. And this is the part most people miss, is it fair for tennis to allow celebrity or financial power to trump merit and competition? Should icons like Roddick draw a hard line, or is there room for occasional spectacle in the name of entertainment and fan engagement? Let's open it up to you. Was Andy Roddick right to slam Ackman's participation, or was this simply harmless fun that brought more eyes to the sport? Do you believe wild cards should be strictly reserved for deserving competitors, or is there sometimes value in shaking up tradition? Drop your thoughts below. This is one debate that's far from over.